I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. I welcome Malcolm Hoenlein, my colleague, chairman of Conference of Presidents, Jewish organizations. He's here tonight because there's an emergency on. And there's an emergency on always when the Middle East is in flames. And that's what we're talking about right now. This is real live war situation, fog of war. Right. Malcolm, good evening to you.
Good evening, John.
There is no one version of what's going on. We can see a version of it in Iraq, but this is not a country isolated from all of its neighbors. Jordan, for example, is on the Iraq border. We know that Syria is in civil war. We also know that there's no firewall here between what's going on in Anbar province, western Iraq, Jordan, and all the way to the Golan Heights, Malcolm. We've spoken of the jihadists on the Golan Heights.
And they talked about it today, about the goal of going after Lebanon, Jordan, Gaza, Hamas land, the Golan, and all of the areas that one could imagine, and especially targeting Jordan.
So this fire that is burning in western and northern Iraq is spreading, and right now there's no certainty that it won't spread throughout the region. So we very much welcome our colleague, the Congressman Ed Royce. He is chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee of the 113th Congress. Congressman, a very good evening to you. My first question to you, please, is will you please explain to my audience how to view this chaos that's coming in from the television, from the president's remarks at the White House today, from members of Congress hurrying around, calling for facts and calling for intervention? How should the audience see these dire events? Good evening to you, Ed.
Good evening, John. What has happened over the last many months is we've seen the black flag of al-Qaeda in these camps going up, as you mentioned, in northern and western Iraq. And city by city, you see this al-Qaeda affiliate taking over the major areas in northern Iraq. What is happening is a movement to set up a caliphate across Syria, Iraq, possibly Jordan, is on march. And what has happened, as you've seen on the television screen, as viewers have watched, it's the collapse of the army. And you have seen for the last 4 months now a refusal on the part of this administration to target those al-Qaeda camps with drone strikes. And as a result, even as it's been requested time after time from Baghdad for those drone strikes to hit this target, you see instead the growing strength of al-Qaeda as they've not been hit from the air.
How is it possible, Congressman, and you can address a lot of these issues with the greatest clarity of anybody I know, how could guys on the top of pickup trucks with machine guns take over city after city in Iraq when we had put billions of dollars into training the Iraqi army? Generals take off their uniforms, soldiers sell their uniforms. How did this collapse just all of a sudden happen?
Well, yes, Malcolm, part of it is the failure to have any kind of air cover. And as you know, the Iraqis were never really able to get their pilots trained or get the capability for air cover. So the way in which you suppress an al-Qaeda insurgency like this one is with drone strikes. But for some reason, inside Iraq, the administration made the decision not to heed the requests from Baghdad and from our allies to rain down on these al-Qaeda camps those drone strikes. So they have not been pinned down. And instead, you've got these very seasoned al-Qaeda fighters who, frankly, will fight to the death, right? They don't mind being martyred. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a regular soldier fighting for the government out of Baghdad, you're not that likely to stand your ground in the face of this force. What you want to do is call in air support. There's no air support coming in order to suppress their advances.
Do people appreciate the nature of this ISIS group? Do the members of Congress understand that they took control, for instance, of Raqqa in Syria, and the Christians have to pay an Islamic tax in the areas they control? They execute people in main squares. That Al-Qaeda called them vicious and unacceptable, their behavior. Do people understand it? Is there any role that Congress can play at this point?
I'm not sure that people really understand Al-Qaeda's methodologies, but what it means for Druze, for Christians, Christians, for Jews, for other minorities, of course, is something on the order of what we saw in Afghanistan under the Taliban, or what you see under Boko Haram in in Nigeria. These are all organizations that have fealty to Al Qaeda, that believe as Al Qaeda believes, that carry the black flag of Al Qaeda, and so in terms of their belief system, they're trying to set up a separate caliphate under this Islamic law, and that's what we're witnessing unfold here. It knows no borders. Its goal is to take this entire region, and it's plunging the whole Middle East into mayhem and chaos.
Congressman, the president gave a speech at West Point some weeks ago where he talked about the limits of American power. And I believe he used the homey metaphor of saying, just because there's a nail, you don't have to hit every nail with a hammer. If there was ever an example of a nail, it would be the black flags approaching Baghdad. Is the president, is Congress ready to consider using the hammers in our arsenal, Congressman?
As you may know, not only has Baghdad called for the suppression of Al Qaeda, but so have we in Congress. I myself have called for action to suppress these units. I've called for drone strikes, which is what is being requested. And up until today, we still have not had a response from the administration. They have still not agreed to do this, and it's been about 4 months now that this request has been out there.
Congressman, you recently held hearings on the nuclear negotiations. Do you have any idea of what has taken place so far, and especially the bilateral talks between the U.S. and Tehran that are going on right now? Has anything really changed?
Well, what is happening is what is being taken off the table. And to me, one of the most important issues are the ICBM program, the ballistic missile program, because the Ayatollah is calling for a massive buildup of long-range, 3-stage ICBMs. And they're saying, by the way, that not only should this not be part of the discussion or agreement, but that it's the patriotic duty of those in the military to expand the ICBM program. These are not the actions of a partner in negotiation, and I will share with you the Supreme Leader's recent comment. He said it is stupid and an idiotic expectation that they limit their ballistic missile program. The Revolutionary Guards should definitely carry out the program and not be satisfied until they mass produce these weapons. This is the main duty of all military officials. So simultaneous with our attempts at negotiation, you have the Iranians saying they should triple, it's their duty to triple the number of centrifuges spinning. They're saying that they're going to continue the research to have them spin faster. And they're saying that they're going to mass produce ICBMs. I would suggest that the administration, in dealing with this regime that has broken every other agreement that they've had, is being, frankly, naive with respect to the way the negotiations are going.
Final detail, Congressman. Right now, Baghdad is under threat. Samarra's reported under siege. How long do you believe the administration has to wait to acknowledge your request for airstrikes? How long? Days? Weeks?
Here's the problem. Our enemies don't fear us, and our allies are getting to the point where they no longer trust us. For the countries in the region who are also calling for us to provide the drone strikes against, this Al-Qaeda threat, we don't have days to wait. We have to reassure our allies. We have to check this advance on the battlefield, and our president is going to have to make a decision to act after waiting for 4 months and turning down that request when they were encamped and were easily targetable. Now, we can still target them on the move, and we've got the assets to do it. Those drone strikes need to occur now.
Congressman Ed Royce, he is the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations. I'm John Batchelor.